Welcome back to the Modern Day Way podcast, where we bring the leaders and providers from our community so that you can learn about what has got them where they are today. First podcast in a while, and I'm so excited to have John Krabbe and Matt Roggentine here with me today. I might have butchered that last name a little bit. You guys can, hate me for it later. All right. But I am just so thankful you guys came on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
So these guys have written a book, The Vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi fiction, and we're just going to unleash the details today. Not all the details, but
no
the
spoilers,
details
no spoilers.
got them to where they are today.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to start with, what gave you guys the vision?
Well, it was a short story that I wrote for a creative writing class at Webster University back in 21. Actually submitted the story in the restroom at my rehearsal dinner wedding, and my professor was like, "Congratulations, here's an A." And I didn't like the way that it ended, so I started tinkering with it while we were hanging out on the honeymoon, and put it down for a little bit. And in October of 22, I showed it to Matt, and he was like, "Hey, you could really do something with this." And I was like, "Oh, you want to help me write it?" He was like, "Sure." Here we are.
I think the actual conversation was, "Hey, you want to help me write this?" Yep.
Short and sweet.
That's yeah. That's about it. And it's kind of flourished into what it is now. It was a really fun hobby, and it's still a really fun hobby. And I didn't think I'd enjoy writing as much as I have. But yeah.
So I read, the little prequel, right?
It's
A little teaser.
Yeah, the little teaser, right? And it reads really easy. And for me, I'm not a huge sci-fi fiction guy personally, right? But it was easy for me to read. And how did you guys make it that easy to read? I mean,
Hundreds and hundreds of hours of work.
actually.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so that initial chapter was, what he submitted for college class was frankly rough. From the moment he wrote it, we changed names. We rewrote the entire chapter.
Yeah.
We threw together what we thought was a good opening, and then later on, once we'd written a huge chunk of the book, went back and went, "Oh wow, this makes no sense."
Mm-hmm.
And so that chapter's probably been rewritten 6, 7, 8 times.
I think it's fair to say that we worked more on the first chapter than anything else in the book. Part of it was because in 21, I thought it was really funny to name the 3 main characters Frank, Frankie, and Francine.
Ooh. Right.
So,
okay. Don't twist me. Why not?
And, Count Continuity over here, who's been just an abundant resource. He was like, how did they say it to this person if that person was over here? And this is just the first chapter. This is 12 pages. And yeah, we probably poured 24 hours first chapter.
Easily. Then at some point you decided to rewrite the characters as well, because you kind of swapped Herb and Oscar, and then there was a whole continuity issue trying to make sure we had all the right names lined up where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. But it's cool.
What was the original name?
It was still, I still called it The Vendors. It was called, the short story was called The Vendors, about a trio of intergalactic gas station food vendors is what I referred to it as, and it was Frankie and Francine. A major malfunction happens on the ship, and at the end of the story, they all died. And I like that. I was like, that's lazy. I needed something to turn in, and I got an A on it, but I didn't like that. I never liked the, and they were dead. I don't like that. So I'm back in.
What would you say the central themes are?
Delivering the highest quality snacks and slushy mixes to the galaxy.
The galaxies. It's
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Good versus evil is probably the main theme. The end of the day, it was good versus evil. So, friendship and good versus evil. You have this trio that essentially crash lands on an unknown planet, and they get separated right away. One gets imprisoned, one ends up joining the rebellion, and one rejoins a family he never knew he had or wanted. Mm-hmm. And through all this, they discover the plot of an evil empress, hell-bent on galactic domination.
Yeah.
It's my 10-cent elevator pitch, everybody. At the end of the day, it's good versus evil.
And so much emphasizing on that because there has been such a shift over the past 20, 25 years in media where the bad guy has a backstory and he's not so bad. He's just misunderstood. And like a great example, a pastor that we all know, David Ayers, he had a really terrific message comparing like the prospector in Toy Story 2. He's just a bad guy. The world frustrated me and I don't like the world and now I'm going to hurt everything to make it work the way I want it to work. And then you have the name of the doll. You're up on your Toy Story. Well, what's the name of the little doll in Toy Story? Well, Toy Story 4 being that she was misunderstood and she just wanted to be loved and she wanted it a certain way. Or even another great comparison would be like the Dark Knight Joker, where it is strictly pandemonium. He's just chaos. He just wants to be evil. And then Joaquin Phoenix's Joker from the movie Joker, where you have somebody that has a mental illness and because of that and this, and they're just misunderstood. And this is what happens when, we let go unnoticed. And some of those things are correct, but my point being is that it's become so watered down, the very clear line between good versus evil, good and bad. And when we blur those lines, it gets real bad. Instead of it being, powers and principalities, it's people misunderstanding people in a way that can become very dangerous. And it has, I feel. So just grounding it out and grinding it out that it is, you have a good group of people against a bad group of people. It doesn't matter how they feel because they are operating as a force of evil. And that's it. You don't feel bad for Darth Vader. Nobody ever felt bad for Darth Vader. We just knew that he was the bad guy. So now we have this other zone of vague misunderstanding. Good versus evil. Yeah.
Good versus evil. And so what message is being portrayed there? What's the backstory to the evil?
Well, we haven't fully revealed the backstory of the evil in book 1.
We figured it out either. We're still kind of figuring it out.
Hey, we have a trilogy mapped out.
Yep.
Book 2 technically has been started.
Mm-hmm.
Book 1, we never really get her full backstory. Right now, her name is Sophia Lender. She is the big bad. She does a lot of evil stuff, and we don't fully know her motivations are in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to really come to light until the next book. But backstory of the evil, I guess.
Well, the backstory of the evil, it's I think a safe answer would be that it is an old evil that understands what good is trying to do, and it doesn't want that. And that's kind of where Christian themes come in a bit, because I definitely say, I definitely feel like the Lord has really inspired us along the way. Him and I will be writing, and he'll come across something and be like, hey, did you mean for that to click in like that? Or did you mean for this to connect like this or this like this? Because all these things connect perfectly. I'm like, no, it just worked out that way. And I definitely feel like the Lord has a hand in this story. It's not prophetic or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But just the central theme of good versus evil, and the good having to be good. Because if the good isn't good, evil will overcome. And you just got to be good because it's worth being good for the sake of being good. You don't get a big medal. You're not carved into a wall. It's just worth it. It's just worth being a good, because if you're not good, what are you doing?
Be good.
Be good.
So be good.
Mm-hmm.
You're stood.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, it's definitely, I'd say it's a violent book. There's a lot of violence in it, but the violence perpetrated, it's horrific. And it's by the evil in the book. There's some pretty violent and gruesome scenes in the book.
There's funny moments, there's tender moments, some gruesome moments. So it's
we really because that's what evil does. It's unabashed. It doesn't stop. It just keeps punching.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to dodge. You got to figure out how to fight against it and bob and weave out of the way and be wise about it. And we're excited to explore that and see where it goes in the next couple books. Because the first book, we're just kind of on one planet. The name of the planet is Kaptafachi, is the name of the, and it's uncharted, and one of them has been there before. And the next book, they go all over the place, but not on one planet.
So the entire series with writing is going to be based in the Milky Way galaxy. If you look at the Milky Way galaxy where Earth sits, we're just one little branch, spiral.
Sit on a little branch, right?
And so we kind of invented our own planets, and there's, everything will take place within, quote unquote, the Milky Way galaxy. So that's kind of our universe we're playing in. So yeah, the next books will definitely explore a whole lot more of that. But book 1 is 100% centered on Kaptafachi.
Yep.
Kaptafachi. Tell me a little bit about Kaptafachi.
Kaptafachi. It's a planet covered in trash, and there is a single lone city named Kaptafachi that sits on it, and it's also riddled in trash. By way of a fallen government that didn't take care of its people and runs in tyranny. And the rest of it expands out in the book, but it's not. I don't really feel like it's a spoiler or anything. There's like, so the way that we have the city of Kaptafachi formatted is that there are 7 quadrants.
And we know the word quadrant means 4.
Quadrant means 4. But sort of the idea being there that like the leadership is so lazy, they didn't even take the time to change it to sector or
district,
municipality, and nothing like that. You just kept it a quadrant. At one point, there were 4 sections, and then they branched out into 7. But
throughout the book, you kind of explore how, through control of this evil government, the people have been essentially dumbed down. So 7 quadrants sounds just perfect. I understand there's other words.
They have no idea that quadrant is.
There's been generations of people that have no idea what happened past, and it's been erased, and
they can't see the sky. It's covered in smog. It's just gross. They've been left to their own devices, and they're hopeless. Some people there, like literally, they sell their body parts away, and they walk around hardly in machinery. Through a thing called the Lend a Hand program, where people, lend their limbs away. They walk around and as machines, and they're just, it's past hopelessness. It's like a destitute soul that just Wally. It's a good way to think it. Wally. It's just refuse everywhere.
Tell me a little bit about the process, all right, in creating this. And so, John had it, right? And you're like, this is awesome, but we need to tweak it 7 times.
At the end of the day, I'm going to say most of this is John's brainchild. He did the bulk of the writing on it. I wrote some fight scenes. I wrote some other random chapters here and there. I've done a lot of rewriting to make things flow a little better, things like that. But the overall arching story, I want to say, is probably yours. I've definitely been amused at times and given you directions to go, and then you ran with it. Yeah, I'd say he gave me a title earlier, Captain Continuity. I'm sorry, Count Continuity.
Count Continuity.
I'm a royalty now.
If you want captain, you can be captain.
Nah, I like royalty better.
Okay, Count. Get you the big. You were talking.
Yeah, it's fine. That's how we work. He throws a lot at the wall, and then I have to figure out where it goes sometimes. And you do not worry about dates or how things line up or how it comes. And I'm like, wait a second, hold on.
And what,
just a minute.
What makes it so invaluable is like, back to, I didn't read a lot growing up. I really didn't. I just didn't. And I've been sort of teaching myself to read, and I've really been hanging out mostly in like.
I also am illiterate, so.
This guy is he could fill a library with what he's read. He's actually taken out entire libraries with what he's read.
Just because things burn.
And he has such an immaculate insight into science fiction, and because he's a great representation of who we're writing this to. I mean, we want everybody to be able to buy it, and enjoy it, which we can swing back around to. But, his insight into science fiction and what sounds right, what paces right, what makes sense. And then on top of that, or below that deeper, is his insane ability to be able to have this timeline in his brain. Because if I'm reading something, I'm not going back to go, oh, well, this happened a couple years before that because you said this date. I fly right past that stuff. But such a large population of the people we're writing to, I know, are very, very centered on getting those dates right and things running in line.
It's the details.
It's the details.
And jokingly, I'm one of the nerds we're writing for. I'm one of those guys.
100%. It's great.
We're the ones that look at it and go, wait a second. Is that right?
It's perfect.
It's these guys that show up at a Star Wars con or whatever, and they're asking
George Lucas.
Yeah, like big in-depth questions, and it's like he never once thought about that. I'm that guy, so I'm trying to write to that level where people can't question it because it matches, it pairs up, it flows the way it's supposed to. That's the hope, is that we don't have a lot of questions from somebody who's read it and is passionate about it enough to really dig into it and go, hey, wait a second, you said in 3326 this happened, but really it was 3324.
Think about any of that. Like, oh, this happened in 3,407.
Visionary.
Like, yeah,
right here.
100. He's the logistics guy.
Engineer.
He's perfect. It's so good to work with him because he'll text me, hey, this doesn't make any sense, and I'll be like, does it affect the story at all? No. And then just go for it. Because
I think we really complement each other
100
because we come from different angles of the process.
Yeah.
And I hate to say you're more of the creative and I'm more of the logical section of it.
Yeah.
Together we make a great team. It worked really well.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Because what's nice about science fiction is that on one moon people can walk at whatever gravity you have in your head, like we're walking now, and on another moon, because that's that moon. Because you have some science fiction series like The Expanse, which is like science. They were moving at this speed, and when they turned this way, their fingernails popped off. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Or like, if they're going to this planet, they have to get the trajectory right. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of that. That's not fun.
This is still a story, and there's got to be a little suspension of belief.
Jump the shark a little bit.
Again, we're not writing to that level. I'm not worried about a warp speed or faster than light or whatever you want to call it.
Like here, there,
and we're not stressing.
Well, what is important, because we want to put out a complete product. We do have an illustrator. Her name is Krabbe. She's my sister-in-law. She's brilliant. And she's doing 11 black and white images, and they're going to be full page. So cool. And then Abby Watson, who's a friend of yours. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we hired her as the editor. She's got an extensive editing background. Was like a contract editor. Then she worked for Elsevier for a number of years. And yeah, she's taken our vision and wow. Chapter 1, a lot of that is her rewrites and her suggestions. And
because what I read to you a few months ago versus what you read, it's like she rewrote it. And then what Christian's been able to do, really cool. It's been really, really cool being able to collaborate with her, because it's been, an interest of hers to be able to do science fiction illustrations like the ones that she grew up reading, because she's also a big. So it's been a lot of fun figuring out what looks right, what things can be, and then learning from her. Because when somebody looks at an illustration, the illustration is there for as a complement to the story, not as the story. So, like, if somebody's turning a corner in a specific way, that's something him and I will pick up on, because we can see it when we're reading it, because we've looked at it 90 times. But when Christian draws it, and she has such a deep understanding of how people read things. She's illustrated a few different children's books, and she's published a book of poetry, and she's been doing art for a very long time. So collaborating with both of them has been such a joy.
She's a phenomenal artist.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal. Even the drawings and the prequel were phenomenal.
Yeah,
and they really capture the image that you have in your mind, and I think that's so valuable.
Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. I wasn't saying it if I didn't feel that way.
What? That's good.
We want to, it's not the story itself. We want it to add to the story. We want, again, that visual representation of what's happening. We're not getting crazy with it. We're not doing 100 illustrations, but
yeah.
it's gonna be.
I'm a picture book kind of guy.
Yeah.
So
I want to pop up.
yeah,
books, actually.
Man.
I'm a big picture book kind of guy.
I'm looking at the chapter.
Audio books or picture books?
Oh wow! What's going on here? Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the vision. I mean, you've had the vision. Matt dialed it down. You have this. Nosy. Dialed it in. Dialed it down. Just dialed it. Okay, it's been dialed.
Rotary dial. It's been really time consuming.
Yes. It's been all zeros.
That shows the passion, though.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, it shows what you're trying to portray, right? Is thoroughly thought out, right? And that shows,
He thinks we know what we're doing.
He thinks we know what we're doing today. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've put a lot of time into this. This is always a couple tabs in the back of my brain at all times. I'm probably undiagnosed with a few things. One of them probably being some sort of an attention deficit. And this has been, I didn't realize how much of a superpower that was, because I remember being very frustrated at school, like just not being able to stay on something. And writing this, anytime I pick it up, it's just like, and being able to really hyperfixate and focus on it has been a really cool tool, actually. So, been really,
yeah. I mean, that's
because I think last summer we got stagnant. We it was summertime and we were doing whatever and we weren't really focusing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you were just like, "Oh, it's time to write again." And then he cranked out like 18 chapters in like a week, and like
I wrote half the book in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I plowed.
Okay. The hyper focus kicked in.
Yeah.
And
Just yeah.
about as ADHD as it gets.
It's cool, man. It's nice.
Awesome. I mean, I've had ADHD ever since I can remember. People tell me I've had ADHD, and I feel like it's my superpower.
It's cool.
I do.
I should figure out how it works.
It is. It's a tool.
Really,
It's a tool.
really neat.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Love that. So there's, obviously a variety of different characters in this book.
a lot of characters.
And you both probably have your favorite. But which one do you feel like you resonate the most with individually?
That might be the toughest question you're ever going to ask me.
I knew it was tough, and that's why I asked it. I'm excited to hear the answer.
One of our main characters' name is Oscar.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably say I resonate a little more with him for the simple fact that he's prior military. I'm prior military. He's got an amputated leg. I have my legs, but I got a serious knee problem. So I kind of feel like we kind of match up a little bit there.
You are Oscar.
He's a little cantankerous. I'm a lot cantankerous,
right.
Yeah. And I'll kind of lean towards him.
Yeah.
He ends up being kind of the strategy behind the rebellion. I feel like I have got a mind for strategy. So I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of, I resonate more with Oscar than probably any of them.
Yeah. That's a really tough.
You don't have to resonate with any of them. I mean, it could be your favorite, right? Do you have a favorite?
I like all of these characters.
Okay.
I mean, even the ones I really don't really hate because they were so much fun to write. Frankie's been a lot of fun to go back and revise a lot.
And Frankie's our unique character. She's a bovine, so she's we call her a trough letter. It's the name of the race. She ridges
up big, 7'3", thing with a cow head and snail eyes, and
she originates from the moon of a gas giant planet called Galaxnid. So specifically the moon 406, Galaxnid 406 is what she calls home. So yeah, she's been an interesting character. Again, 7'3", 380 pounds.
Yes,
pure muscle,
huge. I think probably, if I was being honest with myself, probably Frankie. I think there are pieces of ourselves that we've put into each of the characters without thinking about it. Just because, with me anyway, it's like when you're writing, the first thing that you write is what you know, and what do you know? You know you. So you're going to write more of you in something. So with Frankie, she comes from Galaxid 406. Galaxid 406 is just covered in trough letters, and schools. You know, there is one ship that goes down every 7 years with a barge full of students. You only go to this school moon if you want to go there. There's a handful of different universities on there. It is known as the epicenter of education. There are these big, ornate, Oxfordian.
Oxford, yeah. Yale, Harvard, Oxford.
Beautiful stone buildings and the grand halls, and there's grass that the trough floaters eat, and it's on this 30-day cycle where it grows back really quickly. But before they go into school, trough floaters they'll go and they'll graze for 2 hours or whatever, and other students who aren't trough floaters will just bring their lawn chairs, hang out in this field of grass while their friends are eating. So it's just it's just been kind of probably my favorite place to write. My favorite person, probably Frankie. And then there are elements of Herb that I really resonate with, because I haven't in the past I haven't really taken my education very seriously. I kind of threw away what was effectively as close as a 2.8 GPA could get to a full ride at Webster University. So what Herb is walking out are these steps of his life that he kind of has to recalibrate and realize I've goofed up and now I'm here because I keep making all these bad choices and never atoning for any of them. And I think any person can appreciate that point, making mistakes and having to walk out the consequences of those mistakes. And then Oscar is, he's an older guy and he's a dad and he loves his wife and he's prior military and he's just trying to provide and do what he thinks is best. I like the trio. They're really fun. They're really dynamic, and I'm really excited to get into because, book one, they're totally separated, and book two, we'll be able to spend a lot more time with them together. Because the only interaction we get with them is one of them is on the floor bleeding to death, and the other two are just trying to troubleshoot how to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that first chapter teaser that you had, I guess the only time they're together until the very end of the book.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting process to get them there.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's really just come together that way. So, favorite character, I like all three.
What got him there?
An asteroid field.
Yeah. It was
Well, literal?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. They got hit by a big rock.
Yeah.
They got hit by a big rock, and then they what was it? It was a
acetylene torch tank.
acetylene torch tank, like
exploded.
a welder's tank.
There we go.
Exploded, and they were like, "Well,
Punched a hole in their ship, and of course we're in space. Space still works the same in the Milky Way as always has. So
yeah, space sucks. If there's a hole in the side of your spaceship, it's not a good idea, or it's not a good.
Not too great.
Yeah, no, it's bad. What got them there was,
series of unfortunate events, I guess.
Series of unfortunate events. What got Herb on the ground was him not latching the bathroom door, which tells, you latch the bathroom door and then there's a
Flips on a light.
Flips on a light that says that it's occupied. Frankie didn't see that it was on while she was latching down all of the big
Containers
containers of
amazing slushy mix and snacks.
beautiful slushy mix and some of the best potato chips that fuel stations have.
Highest quality snacks in the galaxy.
Highest quality
Phenomenal.
snacks in the Milky Way galaxy.
Intergalactic vending.
Right, intergalactic vending. And she didn't see that, so she didn't feel as motivated to latch everything up, because she didn't think that Herb was anywhere near that area. So it was just mistakes, simple mistakes, which turn into much.
And that's the human element.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We make mistakes, and silly things happen. You got to deal with consequences.
Yep. So, yeah.
The human element of it. Being science fiction, sometimes it's hard to, bring a human element into, things that aren't necessarily like human a lot of the time.
Yes.
Right.
Lots
And
of
so, how do you feel like you were directed into bringing a human element into this? And do you feel like that's a big piece of the book?
So I was revising, and they have a brief discussion about humanity, and I was like, humanity. I can do something with that. So instead of humanity, they have a discussion about manity.
Mm-hmm.
just people's, beings, planetary races, intrinsic value, just to kind of expand the empathetic, sympathetic elements, across the galaxy, because not everybody looks humanoid. There are things that look very, very odd. But there is still very much, if something has a face, you kind of empathize with it. That's why we all cried at the end of Toy Story 3. It's just toys going into an incinerator, but it's Buzz and Woody. We're about to watch them die and they hold hands. They're going in, but we feel for them because they have faces and they have characters and they have character. So the humanity or the human aspect of it is the character of those people. Something in us we just want to root. We want to root for the good guys, and that's a lot of what's in this book is just they're good characters with good intentions, and they just want to do what they think is right and what they know at the time, which is very human.
And they make mistakes. I mean, one of our main characters is Lyra, and she's kind of the head of the resistance, and she's kind of a hothead, and she makes mistakes, and she's
young, and she's just trying to figure it out.
She's seen horror in her young life and doesn't understand, and she wants to lash out. And it's typical, like I said, the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
You see horrors, you want to right the wrong.
You can only do what's right based off of what when you've grown up around. That some things you learn, some things are just a part of you, and there are lots of things that she just didn't grow up learning. She grew up around trash and watching her family and friends sell themselves away and then dying. It's horrible. Some of these characters grew up around. And then having that great contrast of Frankie coming from this place that is lush and beautiful. Everybody wants to be there. And every day's a great sunny day and a great day to learn and a great day to expand what you know. And then you have this huge contrast of Frankie coming to this place where it's just destitute and sad and people don't know what to do with themselves.
When she meets character Pauline, it's just for lack of, there's no education there. She's just ignorant to the world and to the universe as a whole. And so like every time she's having a conversation with her, she's like, wow, she doesn't understand. Wow, she's never heard about this. And then her teacher kicks in and she keeps educating, keeps trying to.
She can't help it.
She can't help it.
It's like she is so much trying to get away from what she's being like called to do. And she can't help it when there's an opportunity to teach. She just has to. It's like a bone in her. She just goes. And she doesn't ever feel bad about it. She just does it because it's just what she's made to do. So being made for something and then carrying that out.
I digress.
Passion.
Yeah, we're talking about his writing style. Sometimes he goes off in these tangents for 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 paragraphs. I don't know. And then at the end of it, we just got to throw out hey, I digress.
It's kind of the
tagline from the book.
The tagline of the book is
I digress. It is being narrated.
Yeah, it's from a third person perspective. And the voice of the narrator has been interesting to figure out. Going back through it, I definitely see like, oh wow, I can tell I was really, really into watching Band of Brothers at the time, because sometimes I switch into writing the characters like they're from, 1944 Bastogne in the middle of World War II. Or there was
really based on our conversation. You're really into Toy Story.
Love Toy Story. I didn't think that Toy Story would be coming up as much as it has.
It has a lot. Shocked.
Yeah. Or like at one point I realized this a couple weeks ago when I would write and I'd keep writing about the same thing and I'd explain way too much about what's going on. Way too much. They took a left step and then they took a right step and their keys jingled and they turned to the left and I'm like, we don't need to know everything that happened. I realized, when I wrote that, I was going through the Old Testament. It's not a slight against the word again. It's just like you read this historical account and you're just like, in some parts of like numbers, it's kind of like
me being sci-fi fantasy guy that I am. I've read a lot of stuff. One of my favorite series of all time was Wheel of Time, and Robert Jordan wrote to like that unbelievable level of, the character walked into the room and there was tile on the floor, and there was a beige couch, and there was a blanket covering the couch, and there was a wood table, and it was, he would write every minute detail, like, oh, there's a tapestry on the wall, and we describe the tapestry. You couldn't just say, hey, there's tapestry on the wall. And so sometimes you get down that path where you're explaining everything in minutia, and I'm just like, oh, you gotta bring that back. Mm-hmm. Best part of that series is when Brandon Sanderson took over and wrote the last 3 books, because it paced so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to keep the pacing up and keep it readable. So you enjoy reading it, something easy to read.
Such a compliment.
Yeah, easy to read is a huge compliment.
Easy to read is a huge compliment. It's so cool to see all these different moving parts come into click together, because, something I'm really excited about is working with this guy probably for the next 10 to 15 years at least on these things. And then working with Abby, our editor, and working with Christian. I mean, she's family. I see her all the time. But collaborating with them on such an interesting piece, I'm in it for the long haul. We both have a lot of faith in this project, and it's really been really fun to see it come together the way that it has, because it really did look like just a quartz when we first started, and it's really come to be something really,
sculptures turning out
really, really something quite beautiful. Coming back to it is like seeing it have your block, and after that you draw what you want to see in the block. So now what we're doing right now is we're just chipping away and finding the faces in the story.
You've chipped away quite a bit.
Yeah.
How many words have we cut out together?
Oh, we cut out a lot. 5,000, 6,000 words.
5,000, 6,000 words probably.
Just trying to trim some of the extraneous stuff, and
just, what's interesting, what's not interesting.
And like I said, make it more readable, make it easier for the reader to read, because we don't want to make it. I love Tolkien. He created the entire fantasy genre, but he is tough to read. Like, it's not easy to read. Like, I want to make it so it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
When you say accessible to everybody, what does that mean? I mean, ultimately, like age group up.
Yeah, I've got some vocabulary in there that's a little more advanced. Me personally, as a kid, I read a lot of fantasy and a lot of sci-fi as a child, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm the nerd that had the dictionary that was like, what's this word mean? What's this word mean? And all the big literary greats, Hemingway or whomever, like, they wrote to like a 3rd, 4th grade level. So I try to keep it down like that, but our editor has put those 50-cent words in there. I understand. I'm enjoying them.
Oh, there's some.
So I'm gonna say probably pre-teenage level, probably education-wise. I like
context most of it. Anything that's not a real word, I explain.
Yeah, we have a lot of made up words. We made up some cuss words. Can't just use regular cuss words.
Yeah, and it was like, that's something that really convicted me. I was like, yeah, because like, it personally, when I'm reading something that creates it is sort of it grounds it in reality and gives people humanity is the language that they use, obviously. And with vendors, any vendors, I've worked in merchandise and I've worked with, vendors. Is like, some of these guys are truckers. Truckers don't speak like pearls, construction workers, they don't speak like pearls. Teachers don't speak like pearls. People in the medical industry,
probably military and a medical. So,
like we're talking about 50-cent words.
Like, I love dark humor.
Yeah.
Need some more whiskey?
Right.
Whiskey helps.
Yeah. So like writing it, and like somebody gets really frustrated about something, and it's like, well, not everybody can just people cuss and throw in F-bombs. And I was just like, oh, what if I just rewrite or make up some
silly words that is the new cuss words, essentially.
Cuss words, like they've been forgotten because the story takes place. You pin down the date.
We're way in the future.
Yeah, like 47?
No, we're the 33s. Oh, like that was the Macintoshes. We're the 45s. We're in the 45s.
You're 4,500
something.
So this is kind of the disbelief bit, because like the rest of language is kind of stuck around with all these different races chit-chatting and sharing information. But
somehow it's amazing that everybody speaks English. The entire Milky Way galaxy.
And everybody speaks
fantastic.
These different swear words. So like
it's the beauty of the disbelief, suspension of belief.
Right. So like
everybody speaks English. It's great.
So instead of like
although you did throw in some random French because
it's funny.
St. Louis and French and soccer blah.
But yeah.
Called.
Comment allez-vous, monsieur? Yeah.
Yeah, random French.
Random French, and then instead of like even the trial flutters have their own expletives, so bakbasha is just a whatever word. Holy cow, or you're right. Or like instead of MF, we have like Muxerglagen or Muxerglager, and then
Muxerglagen.
yeah,
Muxerglagen around.
Muxerglagen. No,
That Muxerglagen.
yeah, that Muxerglager. What the mux?
So
You know what it says.
well, you just trying to
distances a bit. It adds, it grounds the story and the characters in its own reality. It having these little nuances like swear words. Just been kind of fun.
Okay, that's really neat.
We have
Really neat. So how many words do you think you guys have come up with?
not a lot. I don't know, 5, 6. Stag.
We use ass and damn because those are, some people will shiver at those words, and I just I grew up with so, Muxerglager, Muxerglagen, stag,
The Osha.
bakfasha. Probably just those.
So 7 or 8.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
More to come.
If you want, would you
More to
like
come.
more different?
I would like more.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
We'll talk about it. We'll
That's
figure it
great.
out. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll talk after.
Can I make a
get you some writing
What do you
credits
want?
unless
Ooh. What do I want? I'm gonna need to think about that one because I want to be stuck in the book. I want to give you some.
Yeah, what
we're
is
getting some writing credits for a special
Muxerglagen name, right?
Yeah, Muxerglagen,
And then
right, yeah.
have it, just
Yeah.
get incorporated.
just yeah.
Is it-
the ultimate Vanderbilt.
Maybe right.
Yeah.
The ultimate breaker you doing?
Some Vander breaking around.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So you've been, a science fiction fan ever, Matt?
Forever, long time.
Okay.
Probably my childhood best friend. It's probably who got me started into it, and I've been reading fantasy and sci-fi the better part of my life. What question do you actually have about that? Because I can go.
Oh, what your top 2 favorite before you were 15?
Before I was 15,
Specific.
anything. Dragonlance. Started reading Dragonlance Chronicles, which is the core of all Dragonlance. And then the next series after that is all based on trilogies, written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Fantastic novels. The next after that would have been Legends, which talked about one of the main characters. Rastlin goes, he fights God essentially, and it's a whole thing. And then it got really heavy into Forgotten Realms. So Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms are the 2 big players in sci-fi and fantasy. I read a lot of that. Post 15, I said Wheel of Time is just fantastic. Sci-fi. The movie came out years ago, Ender's Game. The books were fantastic. The books were exceptionally way better than the movie. Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead. I think it's the 3rd book, Xenophobia, I think. That was by Orson Scott Card, I believe. Yeah, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy. Dresden Files by a local author, Jim Butcher. He's from Missouri, that's probably my most favorite at the moment. It's still ongoing. There's 17, 18 books in the series. It's still ongoing. That's based on a Wizard for Hire, based in Chicago, and anything you could ever think of fantasy is in there. They've got elves, and vampires, and trolls, and Santa Claus, and anything you could ever think of that's fantasy is somehow in his books, and it's amazing. Awesome. He's a literary genius in my brain. So I've read a lot of fantasy, a lot of sci-fi.
It's been a passion.
I just enjoy it. It's just I find the creative. How many rom-coms can you watch? It's the same story over and over again. It's like sci-fi is interesting. It's intriguing.
Yeah.
This is the first book you've written.
First book I've written. That's the thing. Going back to the earlier conversation of how we got started was, I've had ideas in my head to write a book. I want to write a book, and then he shows me this, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing. This is really cool. You want to write?" Yes. It was instant. There's no question in my mind. Yes, I want to write a book. And we've been at it ever since.
It's actually at Pinecrest.
Really?
Yeah, we were at Pinecrest. We were just hanging out, and I think we were playing card games or. Yeah.
Everybody left, and I was like, "Hey, you want to look at some science fiction?"
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
and that has definitely fueled my let's let's write. I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I still have ideas. I have an idea of my own for a series.
So
And then Amanda, so Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and those guys had, what was it called? Inklings. And the little group, they got together. So we jokingly call ourselves the Typos. So it's me and John and Amanda Krabbe. We kind of get together on occasion. She's writing a murder mystery novel based in like South Missouri, and very intriguing. She writes some very like bite your fingernails moments. She's got some. She's intense,
really good pen hand. Yeah.
So, but we jokingly call ourselves the Typos. We got together last weekend actually and wrote together. And
yeah, it was fun.
I'm kind of
Typos.
Yeah, the Typos.
Yeah.
I'm kind of editing both books, sort of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been editing her stuff, editing your stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
You're involved a lot more than an editor, though.
yeah, because with him, I'm doing a lot of writing. With Amanda, it's her project, and I'm just kind of helping edit a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, me and John were definitely. I wrote a lot of the fight scenes. Wrote an entire scene about chess.
Yes. Such a great couple.
You a chess guys?
I play some chess. I'm not.
Are you a chess guy?
I'm not great at it. I'm like a 600 level player, maybe 700 level. I got some friends that are way better at chess than I do. They beat me all the time.
Shows me that you're a chess guy just because you can say, you know, I'm a 600 level. Or 700 level.
I don't know what that
I'm like, oh, level? Okay.
I like chess. Chess is a lot
I know
of
the
fun.
moves a little bit, but you know.
In that case, go to chess.com, make an account. I'll play.
Yeah, you'll.
Give me a little boost. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You know what, John? You want to do that?
We can play chess.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, where I'm at right now.
You and I can play chess, and I think, yeah, I remember the first time I played chess. My buddy John Reed, he was like, "You want?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he sat down. In the first match, he showed me how all the moves work. In the first game of chess I ever played, it was an hour long. After I was done, I went home and I took a nap. It's like chess unlocks this anything intense like that. It unlocks this this part of your brain you didn't know it. Like awakes this dragon where you start. You mean like it awakens like this part of your brain where you start to think differently about how you walk through groups of people. And with chess, it's not like checkers where you're like, oh, we're going to jump over here. It's like, okay, so this piece moves this way, and you have to be careful because if you move this way, that can move that way. But it's the same thing with every other piece on the board. So yeah, I remember it was like taking the ACT. My first match of chess I ever played, I went home and I took a 2-hour nap after I was done because I was so tired. I don't know how this guy's like, oh, I'll be over at his place for the fights. And while people are beating each other up on TV, he's talking to his buddies about how they're beating each other like they're going over sports reels. And I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
And then we'll play random games while things are going.
Yeah,
we're just right now.
A couple different games. I'm just like, man.
So speaking of chess, what's your next play? What's your next move for the vendors?
Oh, okay. I was like, well,
what's your next move?
That's a beautiful
for the
segue. I
vendors?
appreciate that. Again, we're gonna get off planet. So the end of the first book, a lot of stuff happens, but we're gonna get off planet. Everything happens in Cap Face. Book 1. Book 2, we're gonna see a lot more of the galaxy. We're gonna explore other planets. We mentioned multiple planets. We give some backstories to some of our characters. We're gonna really fully explore some of these planets. We're gonna go there. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna go big. By book 3, we'll be maybe possibly leaving the galaxy.
I'm so glad you're thinking that far, man. I can't even. I'm having such a hard time getting past like the chapter I'm in right now. As far as the logistics go, we're hoping to publish in the spring and
Summer. We'll roll back.
Oh, that's right. We're gonna finish. That's right. You're right. We're gonna finish. We're gonna finish our edits in the spring, and then we're gonna set up for publishing on Kindle Direct, which is Amazon, and on Google Play. Both those places are free to publish onto. Amazon usually, Amazon takes a bit more for royalty, but you keep your IP, your intellectual
property.
So they don't hold on to it. If you want to take your stuff off of Amazon.
If we want to get real crazy, we could actually file for copyrights, but once you publish something, copyrights are inherent. So
Once you write something, that's what's, I mean, if anything's pretty, if any of the laws of the United States are really well thought out, and for all intents and purposes, it is copyright laws. If you write something, it's yours. It's yours. We make references.
and I want to say, like, we all have the influences, we all have biases, we all have whatever.
It's true.
But like, at the end of the day, like, I don't feel like there's any influence to this. We wrote a story that we needed to write.
Yep.
And we go where the story takes us. We're not overthinking it, but we don't have any like, well, I want to write it like XYZ book, or I want to write like this particular series. Like, we're just writing, and how it comes out, it comes out. We don't have any specific influence that's saying this is the thing. So I think we've written something unique. I mean, as much as can be unique as unique can be.
You can't. Nothing's unique. I don't know if you can be original, but you can definitely be.
And nothing's original. Nothing's new under the sun.
Nothing's new under the sun.
But
definitely unique, I'd say. Because what, some of the things that have been really fun is like, if there's a fight scene that needs to happen, I have dialogue. I know how to write dialogue. I can write a 12-page conversation between people and make it semi-interesting. When it comes to like fight scenes, like Matt's got it. Matt's got a background in martial arts, and he understands how chess works, and like he's been
I also watched just a ridiculous amount of UFC. Ridiculous amount.
Lots of UFC. Lots of wings have been torn apart watching you.
Yeah.
But I'd say that all of my influences have been visual. So thematic influences. I'm a big movie guy. He's a big book guy. I'm a huge movie guy. I love movies. So when I'm writing something, I have the image in my mind of what I'm writing. I've seen so much. I've watched so much, and I've studied so much. So if anybody was looking for like, oh, it's kind of like this meets this, I'd say that The Vendors book 1, the first Vendors book is like Guardians of the Galaxy meets Blade Runner meets Fallout. You have this motley crew of aliens who work together on this dystopian planet, and there's trash all over the place, what I'd say. But I really do feel like the majority of it, I mean, I haven't really drawn. I reference things all the time. I reference lots of different, like I reference bagpipes.
I
reference bagpipes.
Well, Frankie speaks with a Scottish accent.
She does. No, she speaks with
I'm sorry.
a Glaswegian accent that sounds like the Terran Glaswegian accent. I just wanted a movie full of
Scottish speaking.
Scottish. But yeah, most.
And we've tried to write that in a way that's easy to read.
Yes.
Because if we actually write it the way somebody with a real thick accent, you would never be able to read it.
Yeah, if you wrote it phonetically, it's
tough to read. So we're trying to curate it. So like, hey, she has this accent. It's a Scottish accent. Like, trying to make it readable.
What we find is it's a slippery slope trying to write something with a more phonetic sound. Because whenever I watch something, like I watched this television show called Still Game. Everyone there speaks with a really thick Scottish accent. I know Scotland is pretty big, and they were from Aberystwyth. But writing something where people sound like that everywhere, as opposed to like, what does a Scotsman sound like in your head? That's what they sound like. And there's like an A instead of a no, but not like as phonetic as we were writing initially.
Initially, it was tough to read because we were getting real into the weeds, and like, it was tough to read.
And that was a pretty significant discussion that we had.
Our editor
Abby, and a conversation I had with Christian on her insight, because it's like, like what were your first impressions of the teaser that we gave you? What did you think of the teaser?
It was a teaser.
Yeah.
It was definitely a teaser. So, I mean, I feel like it gets into the details, right, of kind of what to expect, but it doesn't give you too much of a insight on exactly, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
And I think that's exactly what a teaser is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I think it was done nominally.
Thank you.
Ultimately, as far as, it's a teaser, right? It's exactly what you want it to be, and so, John, you're not personally pregnant, but your wife is, right? And so, you're pretty much personally pregnant. And so...
No, I'm not. No, my wife is pregnant. I am not pregnant.
But
she's doing all of the work here. I'm making grilled cheeses every once in a while. My wife is pregnant.
You're as pregnant as you're ever going to be.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, there you go. All right.
He has some back pain.
But
Just a hard laugh for that.
how has that pushed any, visionary, movement throughout the book when you got that information?
Like becoming a dad?
Yeah, becoming a dad.
I don't know. I think something that the Lord has put on my heart for a very long time. I've always wanted to be a dad. Dad vibe. In high school, I always played the dad, or I played the old man who was a paternal figure. And it's a dream come true. Having a kiddo on the way. I rewrote a chapter the beginning of a chapter that read really weird. Oscar's from a planet called Martinus, and he's got a wife and kid. And I think I was maybe able to tap into that a little bit, but I'm a dad, but I haven't talked with my child. I haven't, I've talked, into my wife's belly, but I've never sat down and had a conversation with my kid. I haven't done that yet. I'm very excited to do that. If anything, things become very real.
You look at life a different way. And so that's why I asked this question, is you look at life a different way.
Very real. Things become, in a moment, you're like, oh, it's happening. Here we are. And that's been a big push for this book. It's like, oh, yeah, we'll figure it out whenever we can. But now it's like, there's a deadline. Like, the deadline is like June 1st when my wife's due. And as soon as
he announced, like, I'm not going to lie, I knew a little ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, by the way, our schedules is going to
be we now have a deadline.
Yeah, we now have a deadline. Before
we were just kind of winging it. Like I said, we didn't do much over that one summer. We had months off, but as soon as we have a baby on the way.
Yeah,
life is changing. We have to get this done before. So we have a hard set deadline.
Yeah, I don't know if anything in the story has shifted necessarily. There's a flashback sequence with Oscar back on his home planet talking to his wife
and his child
and interacting with them. And then, props and credit to Christian, our editor, for giving us that idea they had before.
You did. It was strange. It was like a puts a lotion on the skin type thing. It was weird.
It was. Do you remember when Woody?
Oh man, Toy Story again. Here we go.
In Toy Story 2.
I had no idea you were listening to Toy Story. Me either. I've lied about everything. Toy Story is the entire reference.
Woody has a nightmare. Woody has a nightmare of Andy throwing him away, and he's stuck at the bottom of a trash can. Do you know what I'm talking about? And all those toy arms. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those toy arms start popping out, and he's looking. This is a really dumb dream sequence, and it was weird. I was trying something. I thought it was interesting. I remember being very excited to tell him about it. He's like, this is kind of stupid. So then we went back and rewrote it. It's like, oh, well, when you put a real interaction with a wife and a real interaction with a child, onto this man who just wants to get back to his family, it really puts a weight on things. Well, I'm not, I'm a dad now and I'm expecting, a baby. There's some real weight, a dad when he's got to provide. And that's one of the big things for Oscar here is like, I got to provide. I got to do what's right for my family. And ironically, a lot of that is kind of has been reflected in my work, switching from, Fox school district over special school district, just kind of doing what you think is right with what you know. You just got to do what you think. Got to do what you can with what you have.
Honestly, John, you're probably one of the hardest working guys I know. You picked up a second job, a third job, a 12th job. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when the guy sleeps, to be honest with you. And then somewhere in between there, he writes 18 chapters in a week.
Yeah. It's that undiagnosed stuff that comes in clutch. It's those late nights that don't feel late because they're only for the night, and something that I really worried about, and something at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for your family.
So, it's brought some passion into the place.
Yeah,
and so, I want to know, how can we get our hands on the vendors? Book 1 comes out, right before the baby.
Yeah.
And so how are we getting our hands on it?
Amazon,
Google Play. Like I said, baby's due early June. We're going to hopefully have all of our edits and wrap up done by
we'll have
end of May.
It's a wrapping. It will be wrapped up.
and then I will start handling the all the publishing process. And hopefully by early summer, June, July, we will have this out for consumption.
We'll be able to find it on Kindle Direct and Google Play. Look up the vendors.
Okay.
I digress.
So mid-May?
Yes.
Mid-May?
Mid-May.
July 1st.
It's I keep thinking that everything has to be done before I know that all of my stuff has to be done before this baby comes around, and I'm almost done. So that kind of be the logistical count.
Okay, so we're gonna call it June. All right, we're gonna call it June. All right, and it might be a little bit ahead of schedule, might be a little bit behind schedule,
You'll
but
know.
but you guys are gonna know.
You'll
and
know.
So I think we're gonna attach the teaser to this link here.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
That'd be
So,
great.
that way we can get that out there.
Yeah.
But it's so fun to talk with you guys with a passion.
Thank you for having us on here.
So we really appreciate this.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
At the end of the day, what I hope that this book says is that it's worth being good. And what happens to a society when information and knowledge is withheld is it destroys itself. Without order, goodness, things fall apart. And it's not too many breadcrumbs to bring you back to the Lord there, but it's a good story. You have a lot of faith in the story, and it's a good. Thanks for having us on.
I know, I can tell. I mean, it's so fun to see your guys' passion in this, and it makes me that much more excited to read the book.